Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Megan Ohlendorf, and I manage our weekly legal marketing webinars here at Avvo. And today we're really excited because we have another guest, and with us is Andrea Cannavina. And Andrea, just last week I think it was at LegalTech New York. And so today she is going to provide a recap of everything that she heard and saw and did, and give us kind of the whole overview so I think we'll probably walk away feeling like we were actually there. So it's one of the biggest legal technology events held every year, and so I know there's going to be a lot of important information coming out of this that will be valuable to everybody here on the line. So before I pass it over to Andrea, though, I just want to give you a little bit of background on Andrea. She's been a guest with us many times before, so we're thrilled that she's back. And Andrea founded her virtual legal assistant practice, LegalTypist, in 2001 and hasn't looked back since. She provides virtual assistance for her clients by customizing each digital workflow to the client's existing technology, equipment, and comfort level. So needless to say, Andrea knows the ins and outs and everything there is to know about legal technology. So I think it's going to be a great presentation today. I want to encourage people that you have a question box on your screen. So please feel free to ask questions as we go along, and I'll try and jump in. And if we don't get to them, then we will make sure we address them at the end. So with that, I will pass it over to Andrea.
Thank you, Megan, and thank you, everybody who's here with us today. I really do appreciate you taking the time out. I kind of say that at the beginning of every presentation because I know there's more than enough presentations that I register for with the full hope of being able to attend, but given the type of practice that legal generally throws, some things in our way. So for anybody taking the time out, I know you're already crazy busy, so thanks for joining. This is a really very informal discussion and some observations with regard to LegalTech New York, which is the event that it's held. It's touted as the legal trade show in the world, #1. And it's located at the Hilton here in New York. I'm right outside of New York on Long Island every January, February. And I've been attending this since, I want to say 2006, but the latest reference back I go is 2007. And I really started following and paying attention to not just the exhibit floor, but the educational sessions and the types of vendors and the people that attended since 2008. And so I wanted to go over, giving my perspective on it because for those of you who don't know me, I consider myself I'm a virtual assistant. I help mostly attorneys, CEOs of legal techs. I'm trying to think of, pretty much anybody in the legal tech world or in the service profession understand how to use the tech of the day, whether that's upgrading their business processes to incorporate on or offsite tech or people, or whether that's just, I want to go buy this particular piece of equipment. Is that a good idea, or is this a good service to use? So I've been trying to guide people because the way that I see it, if you can get the tech to work correctly, then everybody's happy and you're the most efficient, and that's really kind of what it's all about. So I'm about assisting people and helping them be the best that they can be. And if you're efficient and you're organized and you can work your tech, well, that's all about that process. Now, I've been going to LegalTech New York. I originally started going so that I could review the techs that were coming out, all of the hottest, latest, and greatest, to see if I could apply it to my clients or to my particular target market and help them understand what's available and what's coming down the pike. And the first thing that I took away from LegalTech New York, that I think everybody takes away, is this is not a show for the solo small firm. This is a show that is literally out there for the thousands, attorney firms, international firms, and the people that have to deal, especially with e-discovery, in large quantities. So that's how it started, and I want to say for the first year reporting this year, I can say that it actually kind of broke down, and we actually had some sessions that were geared more towards smaller firms, and by smaller I mean 100 attorney firms, and even a few presenters and whatnot that were for individual solo people and how they can work even if they are part of a larger firm. So I was happy to see that. But I have been going to this, like I said, for a pretty long time. So here's the first stuff that I have from 2008. And I have a blog post of what I kind of took away. And you'll see on the right, there's a picture of Carolyn Elephant. I wanted to get her and mention her right away because I really missed her this year. She was not able to make it, so I wasn't able to see her. If you follow her and you haven't read her blog as to why she didn't make it, I suggest that you go over there. She is the author of Solo by Choice. She is a practicing attorney, And she's a really great person. So if you are on Twitter or if you follow blogs, then you definitely want to be following Carolyn Oliphant. But you'll see from 2008, I already took away that there was a lot more people outside of just attorneys walking on the exhibit floor, that it was getting more crowded. In 2008, the vendors were getting very creative with their displays, and there's lots of bells and whistles and clanking and wheels of fortune spinning. So it was a pretty circus-like, I want to say, display expo floor that year. Some of the more mainstream businesses started to show. It wasn't just 100% e-discovery in 2008. The Hilton back then didn't really have places for anybody to check their email or to plug in their laptop. So you would go outside of the exhibit row floors and you'd see attorneys lines against the walls trying to find a plug. So I had noted that. In 2008, I went to the Solo Says dinner. I do it every year. I did again this year. I'll talk about that in a little bit. So the ABA Solo Says is just a great bunch of people that are on that list. That was when SpeedPass first came in. Look, so SpeedPass was really great. I had an SUV back then, so parking in the hotel was much more expensive. The Starbucks was a quieter place to get stuff done. And I don't remember why number 9 I put there, so that's kind of funny. And then, of course, the number one reason why I go to LegalTech New York every year is to actually connect face-to-face time with people. I'm virtual 100% of the time, so I really like to take my relationships, those that I wish to take off, offline, and to get to know the people like Carolyn and the other people that I'm going to have some pictures of here. So we move up into 2009, and I decided I needed to be a vendor. I needed to get LegalTypist out there and into the real world. So you'll see I walked around the exhibit floor with my T-shirt on. My brother-in-law, Vinny, came with me. He had on a shirt from the Mosey people that was really quite funny, cracked everybody up. And in my newsletter here, you'll see I did a little wrap-up of some of the pictures. 2009, they had a mime. The mime didn't have any signage. Nobody knew who the mime belonged to, so it was kind of funny. There was a Mark Twain impersonator who my brother-in-law actually stumped with a "What's your sign?" because he didn't know what his sign was, and apparently he's a Capricorn. And as you see down on the bottom, there's Amy Daniels from Legal Files. I try to see her every year. That's a great product for your mid-range size firms to keep your documents organized. So that was 2009. And now 2012, in one word, it was crowded. It was crowded. It was hot, and it was crowded. First of all, unlike last year, which was Isapalooza, which made me not even be able to attend LegalTech New York, and which made me very sad. This year, it was warm, it was balmy, it was spring-like. You know, you walked outside and you got a breath of fresh air, and the sky was blue, and it was just it was really beautiful weather for this year as compared to last year. And that really must have brought out the crowds, because it was literally wall-to-wall bodies on the exhibit floor and coming in and out of all of the educational sessions for the most part. So it was really very well attended this year. I also happened to notice online, I don't know if Twitter is helping me or with the hashtag or the group of people I started following from the list that I created, but it really did have a lot more of an international flair this year as well. We had a lot of people from Great Britain coming over, and these are the people that are into the whole e-discovery aspect of the show, which still permeated, but not as significantly as it has in years past. So it was a really nice mix of people, and for the most part, blue, gray suits everywhere. You know, that's, these are practicing attorneys that are taking a look and seeing what else is coming up. And it's interesting. Now, everybody knows the coffee station on the second floor. If you've been to LegalTech New York, there used to be a woman there that I loved. She used to scream out to everybody. She made it a little more dynamic, a little more exciting. It was a little more sedate this year, but it was still, the coffee station up at the second floor was a meeting place you could meet. You know, I met up with Joe Bagat and Brett Burney and a lot of people. If you just kind of sat there and checked your emails and took a look at who was going by, you invariably ran into a lot of people that you knew if you've been going to this for a while. So it was a good place to meet up with people. Moving along, onto the educational sessions. I kind of touched on this before, and I'm sorry I don't have a picture of Brett Burney up here. He did his I Love of iPad. iPads are taking law firms by storm, and it's because individual attorneys want them, and I can see why. I don't have one. I'm a Palm person. I'm not an I person. But that doesn't mean that I don't see their usefulness in terms of what they can do. And unfortunately, a lot of people get misperceptions over what they can and cannot do. And Brett Burney is the best person for anybody to talk to about getting it clear as to how to make this particular mobile tool a tool for you and not just a gadget, and to make sure that you're keeping it as secure as you possibly can and those natures. But that was the session that I wanted to get into for Monday morning, but a stalled Jeep in the left-hand lane on the way into the Midtown Tunnel thwarted my even getting on the road early enough to get there for his 10:30 session. So I had to, unfortunately, I didn't want to walk into it late, so I just unfortunately missed him. But I did get to meet up with him later, and we did talk about it, and it was actually a very well-attended session. So I do believe that in legal tech moving forward, if anybody from ALM is listening, that they should gear a lot more of their sessions towards individual users of various things rather than how everything interplays in the larger aspect, and they will have a larger draw of people. That said, ILTA did an educational track this year that Brett was part of, and then there was 2 sessions after that, including the one on your screen, which is 6 new technologies you should know about. And the panelists are above. These guys are the IT guys from, again, larger firms with multiple offices, perhaps spread over several states. But the information that they imparted was valuable from an IT perspective of anything with a firm over, say, 5 or 6 people. So you could apply what it is that they had to say. So it was a really good session to attend. And the session that was a bunch of panelists from right before this one actually was a great one to attend, which is how to communicate with your attorneys. Because anybody that's had to communicate with attorneys that isn't an attorney can kind of understand why they would need to do a session on that. So, and they had some really good practical tips, and it was a lot more about being a leader and how you need to frame things in order to have things happen. So it was another really great session. So if you're going to attend in years to come, plan on making sure that you make time to attend at least one of the ILTA sessions, or pay attention to what the ILTA track has to offer, because I think it's really practical information and not so much the stuff in the past that is geared towards international law or things that really don't matter on a practical level to firms of less than, a couple hundred. So keep your eye up for definitely for ILTA. And in the session with the 6 new technologies, I actually got to meet the managing IT person from an 100-attorney firm located in Pittsburgh, and we ended up bumping into each other and hanging out with each other for pretty much the remainder of the event. So it was a really convivial atmosphere in the actual events. There was a lot of tables up front where the bloggers and the tweeters were, and we on the hashtag were tweeting our little hearts out and interacting with each other, digitally speaking. So it was pretty fun this year as compared to years past, where the educational sessions, I actually wasn't invited to attend, and this year I was, so I was very thankful for that. And also because these were the first ones that I felt were germane to my target market or to the people that I could help by attending and learning from. Now over to the expo floor. I said already it was really, 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 really crowded. It was, but even though it was crowded, I got to run into a few people. These are, if you look, there's Britt Lorish, and the reason why I have ABA Tech Show underneath it isn't to give them some free advertising, but Britt is actually the co-chair of this year's Tech Show, which is located in Chicago at the Chicago Hilton, March 29th through the 31st, and it's a tech show that's geared towards the individual users and the solo small firms versus how LegalTech New York is geared towards the larger firms. To your right, you're going to see the gang from TrialPad, Lit Software, and they have the app TrialPad that is just kind of taken legal by storm, transcript app. So those are some good people. That was the first year that they got to actually show, and unfortunately, for some reason, LTNY didn't get their name into any of the printed materials. So I feel for them. Also showing for the first time, which I have their logo a little further on, is NetDocuments, who, if you're a part of the SOLASES listserv, know that they host our document storage repository and is the online file storage. So this is them actually exhibiting in larger firm environments. So it was good. There was a lot of new people on the expo floor. There was a lot of non-e-discovery on the expo floor. But on the flip side, I'm going to say this, there wasn't as much excitement on the expo floor. There was no minds, which was good. But there also was very few contests. Any of the contests that were on the expo floor were, here, give us your business card and win a chance to win an iPad. That's great, but you know what? It really did the swag was a little disappointing this year. I heard of monkeys. I saw a couple of people walking around with these like stuffed monkey puppets, but I didn't necessarily see or know what they had to do in order to get them. Other than that, there was a T-shirt, which was pretty cool, and I think I have a picture of that coming up. But there was really none of the blowy things. Put your business card in, grab $1, here, take your safari rides, try to stump Mark Twain. Some of the more exciting, outlandish stuff that I have seen in years past was definitely not there. Some of the booths got bigger. The booths that had candy out, and I'm saying this one for the vendors, instruct your booth people not to eat the candy in the bowl, because really when I was walking down, if you didn't have a bowl out for a contest for an iPad, you had a bowl of half-eaten candy. And a lot of the people, and I went through the expo floor early on day one, so maybe just everybody was getting into their groove, but it appeared that a lot of the people attending the booth were not actually paying attention to the people who were going by. And some of them were even eating the candy. So vendors, step up your swag next year for me, would you? And pay attention to your booth people, because I know this isn't an inexpensive show. Now, along with the show, every year I love to run into my Solo Says. Hi, everybody from Solo Says. Solo Says is a listserv run by the American Bar Association. It is open to the public. You do not need to be a member of ABA. You do not even need to be a lawyer, although I will say that the list is predominantly lawyers. And if you don't pay attention to the rules, lawyers don't like that. So there are rules to be on the list. You're not allowed to sell or market yourself or solicit anything. And you have to introduce yourself. So when you get the rules, when you sign up with your email address, go ahead and pay attention to the rules about how to introduce yourself properly. If you can get past that, you're pretty much going to be on the list with 4,000 smart, funny people, for the most part. There's a couple crabby ones. There's a couple people that kind of sell, but not really. But for the most part, if you need help with something, especially if you're a practicing attorney, I like to say when I first started, and I'm not an attorney, but I am a solo professional practicing a service-oriented business on and over the Internet. I work from a home-based office, and I have since 2001. So it's over 10 years now. I was lonely. I missed hanging out with lawyers. Lawyers are funny, they're smart, and you're in different situations every day, so different conversation is being had. When you're just at home by yourself all the time, it gets played, and it gets lonely, and it gets boring. So when I found Solo Says, I felt like I was back in the kitchen, waiting for that second, at 3 o'clock coffee to brew, where everybody was coming out of the woodwork, and you get to joke around. That said, if you have an actual legal question and you're a lawyer and you need help and you need some research or you need anything, it's a fabulous list. Everybody there is there to help. So go ahead and you just Google Solo Says. But here are some of the Solo Saysers. Some of these are also people that I know from Twitter. There is, I want to start saying everybody's name, but I don't know that that's something that I really should be doing. But if you want to take a look, this was Lisa Solomon over here on the right in the red. I will say her because she's the one that organized the Solo Says LTNY Solo Small Firm Dinner. She does every year. So every year you go into the city. It's traditionally held at a restaurant called Ban, B-A-N-N, and it's Korean barbecue. First year I went, I tried ostrich. I am not that much of an adventurous eater, but I will say ostrich tastes like beef. I also cannot use chopsticks. So it's very nice of Laura Winston to be hanging out at my table so she could help me with the cooking part of it. I do like to cook. If you follow me on Twitter, Meatloaf Monday and all, but chopsticks is just not my forte. So that said, here we are. In the center, actually, we have Ross Codner from Micro Law. He is I don't want to say he's a former attorney. He is an attorney, but he does not practice law. He practices legal technology consulting out in the Midwest, and he has real firms with real networks and real solutions. So if anybody needs to learn something about legal technology, he's a wonderful resource. Micro Law is his website, and you can just Google that, and he'll help you out. It's Andy Barovic up on the left there, and right next to him is Arthur Miller. Arthur Miller is an attorney in New York City. If you ever get a traffic violation, Arthur Germain. And then there's a couple of other people that are on the list. They're just really nice people, and these are the Solo Says that I got to have dinner with. So if you can make it into LTNY and you can make it to the Solo Small Firm Dinner, I highly recommend it. Also there were some people who aren't on Solo Says, because it is also for solo small firms. Up on the upper left is Matt and Alex. They're from a web-based practice management solution called MyCase. It's a new one. So, they announced, I believe, last year at LTNY their opening, and here they are again. Nice guys. Got to hang out with them. In the center is, that's Ben Vickers, and he was actually videotaping Lisa all day, the life of a small firm. That's me underneath in the middle there with Lori, the IT manager I told you about earlier. And over on the right, we have Adrian Larson. He's from JD Supra, a great guy to get to hang out with. Unfortunately, Kevin O'Keefe didn't make it onto this slide because I really wanted to get him on here. He and his son did some wonderful videoing this year of everybody. So LXBN TV, if you want to, you can just Google that, and you can watch a lot of the videos of call-in interviewing people that's of interest to people like you and me. You know, so that's another resource. Oh, here, okay, Shift. That was swag. There's the T-shirt. Apparently, that was one of the big things for this year. I got one because I actually was interested in their product. I was speaking with Rob Reed, and they're from Shift, which is discover-e-legal.com. And the reason why I was interested in their product is because they have a web-based e-discovery platform that's flat fee. So if you're an attorney and you have to do e-discovery on X amount of people, then you know that it's going to cost you X amount of dollars to use this web platform. You don't have to download anything. You don't have to do anything. So if you find yourself in that situation, then this was a company that you want to get to know. And again, the website for them is discover, D-I-S-C-O-V-E-R -e-legal.com. In the middle is LexThink. That's Matt Homan. I've been asked to join him this year. This is another thing basically for ABA Tech Show, but still about legal tech. He didn't announce it at LegalTech New York, but around the same time that he is doing the famous TED, I don't want to say famous, but the fun TED-like talks that used to be known as Ignite Law. It's now LexThink.1. It will be held March 28th at the Chicago Hilton, the eve of ABA Tech Show. And it's a really fun evening where you have 12 speakers who have 6 minutes each to go through 20 slides. So and this year's theme is 21st century customer support. And they're accepting people if you want to speak. So you might want to go over and take a look for point1law.com, and you can submit for yourself. And then, oh, this slide did have the net documents. It was supposed to be over. Oh, no, there it is. Announcements. We have some fun announcements. Clio, partner to LegalTypist, web-based practice management solution, announced a round of funding of $6 million. Woo, woo! So that's always a good thing when you know that your web-based practice management technology isn't hurting for money and probably will not be going out of business anytime soon. So that's wonderful for Jack Newton and Ryan, who were at the dinner, and I didn't get pictures of them. I didn't see them anywhere. So unfortunately, I did get to talk to them that night, along with Gwen, who is their community manager technical writer. So that was a fun thing to hear from them. And they also announced at LTNY that they've added functionality, including document assembly. So kudos to them over there. NetDocuments is right there. They announced that they would they have their multiple attorney platform now. So they were showing this was their first year. I wanted to give them a nod. Rocket Matter announced just before LTNY that it now has document assembly. So another congratulations to web-based practice management that's adding functionality for attorneys. So pretty much those were a lot of the announcements that I heard of that were relevant to the people in my world and in my sphere. So if you have any questions, of course, or if I missed any people, let me know. I'm always here. This is really, that's pretty much all that I had to say. There was a few other things. If anybody has any questions, the Chicago Hilton or the New York Hilton, it was nice that they gave people tables. It was nice that you could find a place to sit and not have to be on the floor per se. And everybody is so wireless now that, not as many people were carrying laptops that needed to be plugged in. But there's two things that I see every year, and it just kind of makes me shake my head, is there's a cafe and there's a bar. And the cafe isn't serving, and the bar is getting stocked because it doesn't open until 5:30. So you have hundreds of people looking to pay money for beverages that can't get anything to drink because the cafe is not serving and the bar doesn't open until 5:30. So if the Hilton wants to put somebody on in the afternoons in the bar only area even, I'm sure that they would actually make quite a deal. And you know what, if they do, they owe me a drink every year. Oh, I know. Somebody else that didn't make it onto the slide for the LTNY that I wanted to make sure that I mentioned was Nikki Black. Nikki Black is a writer. She writes for ABA. She has a few publications, and she writes up in Rochester. And she did make it, but unfortunately she didn't make it onto the slide. So I did want to say hey to Nikki and say it was nice seeing you. And really, I think that's about it. Does anybody have any questions?
Thanks, Andrea. Yeah, there are a couple questions that have come in. So one, you mentioned the educational sessions and that you attended the one about the 6 new technologies you should know about.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what those 6 new technologies were that were discussed?
Oh, well, yes. One of them was Link, which is a way to communicate that's built into the enterprise editions of Microsoft products. So that was one of the ones that made me actually perk up, because apparently if you have that type of license already, you already have that technology. So you have the ability to run VoIP, including, if I'm remembering correctly now, a video through the technology that you already have in place. You just have to activate it. That was one of them, but hang on, I'm trying to go back to my notes here. I know one gentleman, I want to say Ed, he was the last one to speak. He was all about Chrome, which for me, Chrome is a Google product, and I'm very anti-Google. I call it the Borg. So especially with their change in their privacy policy coming up March 1st. So if anybody hasn't read up on that, you really want to pay attention to that. March 1st, everything that is Google now goes non-private, so it's on the consumer level. And that was the interesting thing that I learned from Ed, was that apparently that only happens for those people who have free accounts, who have consumer accounts. I didn't get to clarify with Ed what a consumer account was, but I'm assuming if you pay the $50 for the apps, that makes you no longer on the consumer side. So that was one of the texts that they had discussed. Trying to think what else. There was, I know who, inside legal, Joanna Forche was sitting in the front row, and she did 3 recaps of LegalTech New York that were in-depth more on some of the vendors and on some of the sessions. So if you want more information with regard to that session and the text that they recommended, you can get in touch with Joanna Forche or just do a Google search for Inside Legal, and you can read her reviews on those as well.
That's great. You mentioned that, again, going back to educational sessions versus the exhibit floor,
Mm-hmm.
Do most people attend to go see the exhibits, or do most people go to the sessions, and is the attendance separate? You mentioned you were invited to the session, so how does attending an educational session work exactly?
Okay. Well, if you wanted to attend the educational sessions, you needed to buy a full pass. But because I was going on behalf, as I have every year, for the Legal Connection e-zine and my subscribers, they invited me not just to have the exhibit floor. Anybody can go and attend the keynotes, and they have a keynote every day, and everybody can go and they can see the exhibit floor, and they don't have to pay a dime. They just have to register, and they'll receive their SpeedBass little barcode, and when they go in, they're going to get a tag that, you know, they're not going to be able to get passed into the section where the actual educational sessions are going on. But you can walk around the floor, and you can attend the keynotes, and you can go to the exhibit hall for no cost at all. If you want to attend the educational sessions, that's when you have to buy a pass. And I don't know off the top of my head what the pricing is for the passes, because honestly, until this year, I didn't really want to go see any of the education. I would look at them, and I would go, e-discovery in $1 million case, you know. It's not even $1 million cases. We're talking at, you know, the really high-end level is what it is. It really all started as an e-discovery show, and now it's morphing. And that's great. It still is a lot about e-discovery, predictive coding, and things of those natures, but it's expanding, and it's expanding to include the technologies and the pieces of equipment and the considerations for the smaller firms. So that's where I see it headed.
Okay. You mentioned how crowded it was. For the legal vendors interested in exhibiting, would you recommend doing that? Did you, for example, did you exhibit this past year?
I did not exhibit this past year. I went solely as the editor of the Legal Connection e-zine this year. So I went as an observer. The legal vendors are great. I was made aware that the cost of the booths have come down, or at least perhaps they changed pricing structure. I had always been led to believe in the past that booths were in the 5 figures, and I read on a couple of websites that they're under 7 this year, so just under 7. So That, I think, puts more value into it for the vendors. But without a doubt, this was the year that I would say was more crowded than any other year that I've been there. And it was crowded with what looked like it needed to be crowded with. It wasn't all of the, it was the people that would actually be buying and asking about the services on the exhibit floor. So it is a good investment, I believe, for vendors to be there. And it also happens to be, it's not just about the people that are on the floor. When you're at LegalTech New York, you're there to be seen. You want to be seen. And it's really not about cost at that point. It's about prestige and being where you need to be seen by the people you need to be seen by. That's how one vendor put it to me. They didn't care what the cost was. If they weren't showing at LegalTech New York, they weren't anybody. I thought that was a pretty good way to put it. Because I would not pay that much money to put a booth there because of the type of services that I offer. I would not.
All right. Well, I don't see any other questions coming in, so I know we are a little bit shorter today, but I think that there was a lot of information, and Andrea, you offered a lot of resources for people to go to get more information. I think Solo Says is a great resource, especially for obviously the more solo and small firm attorneys who attend our webinars. So with that, thank you very much, Andrea. I really appreciate this recap, and I think we should mention that you're also going to be going to the ABA Tech Show, and then after that, going to be reporting back here again on everything that happened there. So we look forward to that as well.
Right, but I'm going to be doing 4 full days of back-to-back sessions and then dinners and everything else. So my recap for the next one is probably going to be a bit longer.
That's great. No, that's great. This is great, and so we look forward to that as well. So, all right. Well, with that, I'll let everybody go. Thank you so much, everybody, again, for being here with us today. We have recorded this also, and it will be posted on the Avvo blog probably early next week. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Megan. Thanks, Avvo.